Polamalu retired. Ike Taylor retired. Brett Kiesel retired. We recycled James Harrison. We got the 22nd pick in the draft. What are we going to do?
Defense.
Preferably the secondary.
Welcome to the Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to another exciting segment of The Spread. I'm your host, Jim Sella, in studio with J Dash and JK47. Easy's still on his golf sabbatical. Eddie B, I'm sorry. I know he's not here. I know you like to make fun of him. We all do. If we could get a picture of him on Twitter, that'd be better because he's bald now. Well, the Steelers hold the 22nd pick in the draft this year. It's coming up in about 2 weeks now. It's April 18th. The Steelers, they need a lot of help on the defense. Like we said in the beginning of the segment in the teaser, Polamalu's gone, Ike Taylor's gone, Brett Kiesel's gone. We did bring Harrison back. Our linebacker core is pretty much garbage. Would we call it
Jarvis
garbage?
Jones is garbage. It's garbage.
Moats is, kind of proven, but unproven. Shazir's still unproven. You got Timmons. He's solid.
Timmons is the only one that's really proven right now. Besides, I guess James Harrison was proven, but he got to prove it again now.
Yeah, he's got to prove that he can do it at 50 years old.
He's angry. He might.
We're just going to talk about a couple players that have been popping up on a lot of the mock drafts for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Looked at, probably about 20 different ones. These are the most common guys that have come up on them. These aren't the only guys the Steelers could possibly take. Some of these guys might not even be there at 22. These are just the most common I've seen so far this year. We're going to start with the biggest one, obvious to me, Landon Collins, the strong safety out of Alabama. He's obviously projected a first-round pick. He's the only safety projected in the first round. He's a clear-cut best safety in this draft, head and shoulders over anybody else. I haven't even heard any other safety's name mentioned anywhere near the first round. I guess Shaq Thompson. Did I always say his last name wrong?
Yeah.
He
People
was
think he's
he
more
was
of
a hybrid,
linebacker,
yeah,
though.
but he wants to play linebacker, so he doesn't really count. So
They say Landon Collins is built like a linebacker, though.
He's 6 foot, 228 pounds, and he has 31.5-inch arm length. He can slap you across the face from across the bar.
And he doesn't have bad speed either. He ran a 4.53.
Yeah, for a safety, that's actually pretty fast, especially for a
strong
guy.
safety, yeah.
His size. He played 41 career games at Alabama, starting the last 23. He was a unanimous first-team All-American as a junior in 2014. He was a first-team All-SEC selection and a finalist for the Nagurski Award, the Lott Impact Trophy, and the Jim Thorpe Award. Collins led his team in tackles with 103 and 3 interceptions. He did play both safety spots in college and started 3 games at dimeback during the 3 seasons at Alabama. So not that we would put him at free safety because we got Garbage Mitchell over there, but he could possibly play right there if he needed to. But that just shows his versatility, and Dash, it points to the fact that he does have some speed, because if he can play free safety, you got to cover the deep zone and can't let anybody get behind you.
The one question about him is towards the end of last season in the Sugar Bowl, he got hurt against Ohio State at the end of the game, and he had shoulder surgery in the offseason.
Yeah, it was pretty routine. I don't want to call surgery routine, but nothing major. From what I've heard or what I've seen on some tape that I've watched, he looks to be 100%. He hasn't been in any physical contact since then. He hasn't played an actual football game, so you don't really know. But he's always been a big, strong player. He's always been a really good athlete. So I don't know if I'm going to worry about the injury.
Yeah, I'm not going to worry about it. In fact, this is who I want them to draft if he's available for sure.
Oh, if he's there at 22 and we don't take him, I might not even watch football anymore.
I highly doubt that.
What do you think, 47?
I like how he's stout against the run, Jim. He's a decisive tackler. He doesn't allow running backs much of a chance to get leverage on him. Especially with that 3-4 defense, it's usually instrumental that safety can come into the box and at times stop the run whenever it's necessary.
And you know what he does real well? He uses angles to run the running backs out of bounds or run them to the sideline so they have nowhere to go. He doesn't get beat to the edge because he has a little bit of speed, but he's also a very smart guy, so he knows how to force you to the edge so you have nowhere else to go.
Above all else, at 6 foot, 228 pounds, he'll be physically able to match up to those tight ends.
Definitely. Rob Gronkowski killed us, and as good as Troy was, Troy wasn't the biggest guy in the world, so he had trouble covering people like Gronkowski who were that tall and that physical.
I read he has great work ethic, too, and that's something the Steelers need. I really don't trust Tomlin with this team and the work ethic. No, I like Tomlin. He's just, I don't know what the word is.
Too passive? He
That's
tries to be their buddy too much, you know?
Exactly.
A great leader isn't always your friend.
So maybe this guy, he can be friends with him, but he has the work ethic already. He can stick to it.
He played for Nick Saban. I know Saban didn't coach that well in the pros, but Saban's been a great coach in college. He's produced many, many NFL players who played at an elite level. Collins is a great athlete. He has great footwork, great eyes. He doesn't let the quarterback trick him and lead him into spots where they want him, so he's out of position. He plays aggressively, and he disrupts pass catchers. It's a little different in the pros than what it was in college because you're not allowed to hit these receivers till they're on the ground now, so he's going to have to be careful there.
Well, if Shamarko Thomas doesn't work out as a starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're in real trouble with safety. And if they miss out on Landon Collins, we might be hurting this season.
Yeah, he does have a few weaknesses. His hands are average. So I don't know if he's going to make the diving one-handed catches like Troy made, those acrobatic catches, but not everybody's Troy. He dropped a very easy interception against Texas A&M and Arkansas. I watched some of his tape. I didn't get to see all of it. Sometimes he may show a little too much confidence in that recovery speed that we were talking to, and he's let plays get behind him a little bit. But that's playing aggressively, which is what our defense needs, especially from that safety position.
Do you trust Shamarko? That's the question I want answered.
If the Steelers aren't ready to insert him into the lineup after the time he's been there, I'm going to say no.
So he's a bust
if
at
they
this
don't
point,
trust
then.
him. Yeah, I mean, if you're a third-round special teams player, you're a bust.
So I say, just like what we did with Troy, trade
Move
up
a few.
get Landon Collins.
I agree.
If he falls far enough, because let's be real,
you're
he
not
could
gonna
go pick 10.
Yeah. You're not going to move up realistically more than 5 spots.
Right. Yeah, I could see Philadelphia taking him at number 20, and I could see Cincinnati taking him at 21. So you'd have to go up above them if he's still there and you're going to trade up to get him.
Yeah, I'd say somewhere between 17 and 19 would be the safest place. If he doesn't go, like top 10 like you said.
Correct.
Well, another guy the Steelers might look at is Bud Dupree, the outside linebacker from Kentucky. Another projected first-round pick. Dupree is huge. He's 6'4", 269 pounds. He's fast. This guy is a freak athlete. He was a team captain in 2014. He finished his senior season with 7.5 sacks. He had 23.5 for his career. It was the most by any active SEC player. He finished second on the team in tackles with 74, including 12.5 for a loss, which shows he has a quick first step and he has the ability to read the play quickly and get into the backfield. He started the final 38 games of his career and had 36 tackles for a loss total in his 45-game career. That's almost one a game.
And they say he has good character, too, on and off the field. He's a good guy to be around, and he studies really hard in the tape room, which is a lot of tape.
Loves that tape. Well, when I said he's a freak athlete, I forgot to mention he had 10 receiving touchdowns and 10 sacks as a senior and won a state title in basketball.
As big as he is, though, they say his strength is his weakness.
So he's a
he's
a little sissy?
No, he has adequate strength, but for as big as he is, you see he's real fast. You think he might be a complete monster, but he's not quite as strong as he looks. But, the Steelers are really hurting at outside linebacker right now, and for all the options available in his draft, most of the top ones are going to be gone by this point, and I think Bud Dupree will be the best one they have a chance to actually get.
He does a really good job setting the edge. He does destroy most tight ends at will, honestly. He eats up tight ends. Now, the bigger tackles in the league, like you said, with the strength not being the greatest, he might struggle a little bit against. But you're trying to put just a 240-pound, 230-pound tight end on this guy. He's going to run right through him. He does a really good job transitioning from run to pass during a play-action play. He's a very smart player. He has real good burst, which allows him to play well in zones. You got to be able to see what's in front of you and then react to the play quickly. The Steelers play a lot of zone. Anybody who watches it knows this. And just like you said, the scouts all gave him a plus grade for character. This guy comes in, he lights up the room. He's fun, he's happy, he's always smiling. The kind of guy you want in your locker room. The Steelers don't have that. They lost that with Troy and Brett. I know Troy wasn't a vocal guy. Kiesel was more the vocal leader, but Troy led by example. You need good leaders to help lead your locker room, whether they're veterans or younger players. Some of his weaknesses, like you said, he's tall. He's not real long. I don't know how else to say it, but he doesn't have like the real long arms you expect from somebody who's 6'4" and played basketball. He wins with athleticism over skill right now. He's more of a raw product than some of the other pass rushers. Some of the scouts think that maybe his instincts are below average. Some of them think that they're above average. I've read both ways. It's weird. You usually don't get, we think he's bad at it and we think he's really good at it. You would end up in the middle of the road somewhere. He needs to improve his hand fighting, his pass rushing moves. His move right now is quickness. The tackles can't keep up with him. He gets off the edge, boom, he's there. He's got to get a swim move, maybe a duck and under, kind of a hammer claw. You got to do something. You can't do the same move all the time or you'll get wiped out.
See, now this is a type of guy to me that if we brought him in, I don't think he would be able to start from day one, and they need someone to make an impact immediately. Now, he's going to be the best outside linebacker they have a chance at, like I said, most likely, unless Randy Gregory really falls down the draft or something. Or who was the other guy you were talking about? Shane Ray could actually fall down the draft. But we need a guy to come in and start right away.
Can he make an impact right away without starting right away? Like, say he plays on predominant pass rushing downs but really dominates on those. Is that enough of an impact to help?
I mean, it would help, but I want to get someone in here that's going to start right away. It's tough at pick 22, though.
Steelers are always picking late. What do you think, 47? You want a raw product that could possibly become a beast, or you want somebody is going to play well right now?
Depends. This guy could play well right now.
He could.
This guy's a beast.
He is a beast, but you can definitely tell he still has a lot to learn.
He definitely does.
A lot of his coaches said that he's a very smart player, so if he gets in with the right defensive coordinator, and buys into that system, that he could be a extremely dominant pass rusher. But if he doesn't get into the right style of defense and struggles right away, he may start to lose confidence and lose a little interest.
Given James Harrison will be around to teach him a thing or two.
It all depends how long Jarvis Jones can last as our starting linebacker, really, because once he's out, we need someone to come in. Is it going to be James Harrison, or is it going to be a guy we draft here in the first round?
That's if he's available to start.
Jones got to stay healthy to be able to start, so I'm feeling you, 47.
Well, the thing is, too, is we need secondary. I mean, I would actually, at this point, go Landon Collins.
If he's available.
Over Dupree, if he's available.
Oh, definitely.
Well, what about the cornerback from Washington, Marcus Peters? Dash, this is the guy that choked his coach, correct?
Supposedly. Okay. Allegedly.
He's 6 foot, 197 pounds. That's pretty good size for a cornerback in today's game. You maybe see him put on 5 to 10 more pounds as he goes through the league. He was granted draft eligibility as an underclassman. In 2014, he was suspended for 1 game after a sideline tirade during the Eastern Washington game and was later dismissed from the team following a confrontation with the assistant coach. That's what we said when we think he choked somebody. During the 2013 and 2014 seasons, Peters allowed just 38.1% of the passes against him to be completed and had 24 passes defended and 8 picks. He was selected second all-team Pac-12 in 2013, and in 2012 he played all 13 games, starting 8, and was redshirted in 2011. So when they redshirt you, they generally think you're going to be a pretty good player. He also loves Marshawn Lynch and calls him his mentor. So maybe he eats Skittles too.
Well, they're both playing football in Washington. Peters from
getting high.
I don't know about that.
It's legal in Washington.
That doesn't mean they are. Marcus Peters might be, though.
If you love Skittles, you're probably all ripped up.
He's not an overly fast cornerback. He ran a 4.53.
Yeah, he's no Trey Waynes.
No. But some people actually believe Peters could end up being the best corner in this draft if he can get his head straight.
He has good size, like we said. He has fluidity in his hips to turn and run with wide receivers. He does compete hard in press man coverage, which is good with the bigger wide receivers in the NFL, like your Andre Johnsons, your Calvin Johnsons, even A.J. Green. He's not real strong, but he's real tall and he's got real long arms. He can redirect the talented receivers with his length and flat-out stuff receivers with marginal foot quickness. He stays on top of vertical receivers well, such as your Mike Wallace, who's just trying to run a fly pattern right past you. He tracks the ball well in the air. He goes up and gets it. He's not one of those cornerbacks that sit down and wait for something to happen. Like, he's trying to make something happen.
The one thing I like about him most is his willingness to go up and make a tackle, stop the run. Because that's the perfect Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback. That's the cornerbacks they love to bring in. The guys who can step up and help in the run, too.
You got to note that Ike Taylor did that very well over his career.
Correct.
Yeah, I couldn't catch a cold, but
I'll tell you what,
stuff the run.
if we drafted this guy in the first round and he turned out to be similar to Ike Taylor, I would call it a good pick.
Actually, I would too, because, I mean, Ike Taylor, you got to realize, I mean, very underrated. I mean, I love the guy's size. I like how he competes. I like how disruptive he is to the other team's receivers also, whenever that ball is
Yeah, he
in the air.
doesn't let many yards after the catch. That's another big thing you want out of your cornerbacks, because let's face it, all cornerbacks get burnt here and there. So the ones that can minimize the damage are the best ones to have.
I love physical corners.
Some of the downside for the guy, we already talked about his confrontation with the coaches and being dismissed from the team. That's something you really never want to see in a player. The Steelers took a flyer on LeGarrette Blount. He had a similar problem in college. You punch
there were
somebody
so
in the
many
face,
of them.
you know.
Teamu.
Yeah, he almost ran
Rainey.
people over on the south side. He does get a little grabby off the line sometimes when he gets frustrated, so he might get some penalties. You know, you're not allowed to hold receivers after 5 yards. And he lacks a little bit of patience in press coverage. So if he's getting frustrated and getting beat for the game, he's going to just kind of lose it altogether and just start grabbing you and hacking you, and you're probably going to get around him and get a big play. So he needs to get his head calmed down. He needs to cool off a little bit, stay focused, realize, like you said, Dash, corners get burnt. It's what you do on the next play that matters. You can't get that play back. You get burnt for a touchdown, help the offense for your team get a touchdown.
If we happen to pass on him, I know the Baltimore Ravens are very interested in this guy. So if we don't bring him in, we may see him twice a year.
Yeah. Hopefully he'll be trying to choke John Harbaugh and punches Joe Flacco in the balls.
Yeah, that's one thing. I mean, with his head issues and everything else and the choking of the coach, you got to wonder if the Steelers would even consider taking him in the first round.
I believe they brought him in for a visit.
47, do you think cornerback is the Steelers' biggest need? I went into the offseason thinking they need corners, but, man, they need outside linebackers. They need a safety.
They need a whole bunch of everything.
I agree.
I'm not sold on Cortez Allen. I think the contract extension for him was ridiculous.
Nobody in Spread Studios is sold on him.
Please believe.
The one flash he did show is the year before he got that contract extension, and I mean, that's pretty much been it. He's been continuously burned or injured every time he's been on the field or...
Oh, he's getting burnt off the field. He ain't even playing and he's giving up touchdowns. He's giving them up right now while he's sitting at home.
Someone they compare Peters to in the NFL is Aqib Talib, and I really liked him as a cornerback.
Yeah, he's just apparently been arrested in Dallas like 3 times over the last year, and they've all been false reports. It's weird.
Maybe that's why he's compared to him.
I don't know. I mean, this guy has a chance to be as that shutdown corner that the Steelers would need.
Well, the cornerback I think the Steelers are most likely to take, if they do take a corner, is Kevin Johnson out of Wake Forest. He is pretty much the consensus pick among all the mocks that I've seen when I looked through to do this segment. Even on ESPN, McShay, Kuiper, I don't know if they have him in their latest mock, but they've all talked that if he's available at this pick, the Steelers are definitely going to take him at pick 22. Maybe not definitely, I shouldn't say that, but there's a high probability. This guy's 6 foot, 188 pounds. He has 31-inch arms, not Python's length. He was selected second team All-ACC in 2014, starting all 12 games and allowed just 24 completions all season. 2 completions a game, that's it. That's all this guy lets up. He finished with 44 tackles, including 3.5 for a loss. That's pretty good for a defensive back. In 2013, he was second in the conference with 15 passes defended, finished with just 3 interceptions. So maybe this guy is a little bit more in the mold of an Ike Taylor, where he can shut you down, he just can't catch the football.
Apparently we like cornerbacks that can't catch the football.
And he was ruled academically ineligible in 2011. What? Just like Ike Taylor!
The only thing he needs to do is shave bout that life on the back of his forehead.
He's BTL in 2.0. I love it.
Yeah, if you have the option between Marcus Peters and Kevin Johnson, 10 times out of 10, I think you're going to want to go Kevin Johnson here.
So you refer to it as a Johnson instead of a Peter?
Yes, I want Johnson, not Peters.
Johnson's smooth in his hips. He has very excellent balance. He's a very natural player in man coverage. Has good feet and he's good discipline. He plays square to the receiver and mirrors against him in complex routes. He's real good backpedaling. He's real smooth, especially when he goes to turn and run with the receiver. Sometimes you see young corners turn the wrong way or they just get turned inside out a little bit. It only takes one misstep for a receiver to separate from a defensive back in this league. He transitions easily laterally and has a quick twitch to break on throws in front of him. This guy crowds wideouts. He gets in their face. He's not afraid to play press coverage.
Another thing I like about this guy that the Steelers have to look at is he wasn't injured at all over his last 3 seasons.
That's good to know.
And the Steelers have been taking injuries like mad on the defensive side.
Steelers and the Pens both getting beat up.
Well, I don't think the Steelers took it that hard. The Pens got wasted by injuries.
Ugh, rough. Johnson's another defender who's real good against the run. He's willing to drop a shoulder and lay people out if he has to. He's good on a corner blitz. I don't think he had any sacks in his college career, but he can pressure the quarterback. He's a good special teams player, too, from what I've seen, which you don't always want your first-round pick playing special teams. And right now, special teams has kind of almost been phased out of the game. But if he could be a difference maker there, that would be great.
Again, his speed isn't that quick. He runs a 4.52, but he's a bigger guy, and they say he can keep up with the bigger receivers in the NFL, so that's a good sign. But right now, the Steelers, they're going Allen and Gay as their 2 starters. So if they drafted a corner, I don't even think they would start him right away anyways.
Well, Chad Scott's the last cornerback to be drafted in the first round and start for the Steelers. I think he's the last one to be drafted in the first round.
Chad Scott.
Johnson does have a few weaknesses. He's got a lanky frame, so you could put a little muscle on. He gets fooled by head fakes downfield sometimes, so he's got to watch that, especially playing against Tom Brady. Don't call him out like Antoine Smith did, another bust at safety. He did miss more tackles than you would like as a senior. He's good in run support. He's not afraid to do it, but sometimes he kind of whiffs on the guy.
Is Mike Mitchell his mentor?
Maybe. Better than Marshawn Lynch.
Mike Mitchell is better than Marshawn Lynch? Did I get that
He's
right?
a mentor.
No.
No?
No.
All right.
No. That is the dumbest thing you ever said. We are not dumber for having listened to it.
May God have mercy on their souls.
Well, big yellow flag, no pun intended, for Johnson is he was flagged 9 times for 132 yards over the last 2 seasons, and he was ejected from the Louisville game for targeting. So that shows aggression. But the Steelers had trouble with penalties, especially early in the season last year, so we can't afford a guy who's going to be getting a lot more penalties.
Yeah, we can't afford guys that are going to sit half the season. We can't afford guys that do bad things off the field. We can't afford guys that take penalties because the Steelers already do all this stuff.
Yeah, I know. We got to stop it. It's all Mike Tomlin's fault.
Blaming Tomlin. I blame Haley for the defensive struggles.
Me too. Garbage
Haley, huh?
Todd Haley.
Your garbage-ass offense makes the defense worse.
Garbage ass. It's not the offense that's garbage. It's the offensive scheme that's garbage.
You're right. Your garbage-ass offensive scheme is garbage.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see what Keith Butler can come up with this year.
Yeah, let's hope guys that come in can learn his defense a little quicker than they learn LeBeau's or supposedly need to learn LeBeau's defense.
You have to have 175 IQ to learn LeBeau's defense.
Good luck, Tennessee. Your whole team got to wait 2 years until you do something.
You got to get master's degrees. Another guy the Steelers might take is the defensive end, Arik Armstead out of Oregon. Armstead is 6'7", 292 pounds. He started all 13 games he played in during the 2014 season, recording 46 tackles. He did miss 2 games due to an ankle injury. He finished the season with 16 quarterback pressures, 2.5 sacks, 4.5 tackles for a loss.
This guy is a frickin' monster. 6'7.5", 292 pounds.
Beast. It's like Andre the Giant playing football.
But I mean, that's an elite size.
Do you worry that he's too tall to play DN and he can't get down in a stance and play? The offensive lineman will get under him.
I mean, it's a possibility.
But I guess at 6'7" for most offensive linemen, at least the tackles, you're pretty much matched up to the same size.
I can't believe a guy 6'7.5" can run a 5'1".
Well, Armstead showed great improvement from 2013 to 2014. He has the elite size we already mentioned. He has the ability to add more bulk to his frame. This guy can add another 20 pounds of muscle, coaches are saying. He's a quick athlete for his size, maybe not fast. He explodes upfield into blockers with good pad level and a good hip snap. He gains instant leverage against the run, pushing the offensive lineman into the backfield most of the time. He has good arm extension, which is rare for a guy with really long arms. People just automatically think if you have long arms, you're really good at it. It just means you're easier to get jammed up into your chest and not being able to get those arms out. You got to get them out even quicker and punch the offensive lineman even harder to be able to keep that extension.
The scariest thing about this guy is they say when he gets beat early, he starts to take plays off and doesn't finish out the game, which
Albert
is the
Hainsworth.
Scariest thing about him.
Let's give him $100 million and watch him suck. Another one of his weaknesses is he doesn't have any reliable counter moves when the rushing stalls. So, like you said, he gets frustrated. Probably one of the biggest reasons is he doesn't know what the hell to do. His only move is to try to outpower you. If he can't overpower you, then he just instantly kind of gives up. You got to have some moves in there. You got to build a repertoire. He also sometimes gets caught up in whipping the man in front of him instead of making the ball carrier his focus. So he probably just hates the dude standing in front of him so much he wants to pummel him into the ground, and then the running back's just gone. Later.
I've seen this guy as high as 16, maybe, somewhere around San Francisco. He's not my favorite player out of these guys we mentioned so far.
I've seen a lot of mocks have him going to San Francisco. I was actually surprised he would go that high.
Oh, I love how strong he is. I love how he uses his power. But as you said earlier, the lack of any moves, it all definitely hurts him.
Yeah, he's a fast riser, but he's still pretty raw. So the team that takes him is going to need to be patient and help him become a better pass rusher, because he's not instantly going to be a dominant pass rusher.
His father trains NBA players, so this guy works hard.
People work hard in the NBA? I thought they just smoked weed and shot the ball.
Well, no, trainers make players work hard.
Oh, okay.
If they want trained, if they want to sit around and smoke weed, they do that instead.
I feel you knocking.
You can't come in.
Well, let's bounce back outside to Eli Harold, the guy we have the Steelers taking in our final mock draft. Eli is the outside linebacker from Virginia. He's 6'3", 247 pounds. In 2014, he was second team All-ACC. He led the team with 14.5 tackles for a loss. In 2013, he started all 12 games at defensive end and led the team with 15 tackles for a loss and had 8.5 sacks. In 2012, he did play in all 12 games, but he only had one start. Nothing very impressive as far as the stat line goes. It's hard to produce your first year in college, though. You're still pretty small compared to all these other guys. He was the number 1 overall player in Virginia by Rivals.com coming out of high school, the number 5 defensive end nationally by Rivals.com. He also played quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and accounted for 20 touchdowns when he was in high school. So there's another freak athlete for you.
Yeah, 4.6 40 out of a guy that's 6'3.5", 247 pounds. That sounds elite to me.
What'd he bench at the combine, 47?
Did 24 reps at the bench press, Jim.
That's 225 pounds, correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you bench 225 pounds 24 times?
Right now, probably not.
It's a great way to stay in shape.
That it is.
Again, this isn't my favorite player in the draft. I like him, don't get me wrong. But it's more of a guy that really could fall to him and should be available. These other guys, Landon Collins might not be available. Arik Armstead might not be available.
Bud Dupree.
Bud Dupree could definitely go right ahead of us. Cincinnati could take Bud Dupree.
Yeah.
So we might end up getting this Eli Harold here.
He might just be the best of what's left over. Not that he's a bad player.
Well, I tell you what, his size and speed is something to take notice of.
He rushed with his hand on the ground and standing up in college. He fires out of his stance really fast for a guy who didn't play predominantly at defensive end. You usually struggle getting up out of that stance when you don't do it all the time. He gains ground quickly with his first 2 steps. He's an edge rusher who torques his upper body around the edge, giving tackles limited area to punch him. He sinks his hips and dips his shoulder and trims the edge to gain an advantage around the corner. Very similar to James Harrison, how we always say he gets held and hooked around the throat with the tackle's arm. It's the only way they can stop him because he just ducks his body and leans in, and he's so strong. He just comes around that corner so hard, there's nothing else to do. He's very impressive with accurate hand usage and little wasted motion as a pass rusher. And he uses his hands to snatch up and shed the blockers to get after the run also. He's quick to read that if he's coming in on a play action pass or that stupid read option that they do now. He's very good at reading that, which is big because so many more teams are picking it up in the NFL these days.
And it'd be nice to have a fast outside linebacker, especially one this big with Cam Hayward and Tuitt at ends. If they can hold up the tackle for this guy right here, he could probably get to the quarterback a lot.
You know, if Moats picks it up and Jones plays anywhere near he could, and we get one of these elite pass rushers, we could go from a major weakness at pass rush to a major asset, and those are a lot of ifs. So it's kind of wishful
thinking.
thinking.
And Hayward both take another step forward this season. That would
Yeah.
be the biggest thing to help these linebackers out.
To it, definitely, because he was still so young last year. Hayward's been around a little bit longer, but he definitely looks like he's ready to make that step into an elite player on the defense.
They need it because they're lacking elite right now.
No, what we need is another Aaron Smith is what we need.
Well, that's what they're hoping, too, it's going to be.
Guy was a rock.
You know who we really need? Casey Hampton.
That's what we need, another
Where's Big Snack at? Let's bring him out of retirement.
A couple weaknesses for Harold. He's thin at the waist, and his lower body lacks a little bit of mass, so you could look to add a little bit of muscle to his legs. His play strength is a little below average for a pass rusher, so he can be redirected by the bigger tackles, the 6'7", 330-pound guys. He has to work overtime sometimes to disengage from those tackles with the big, strong hands, big, strong arms, but all this comes with the stronger legs. You work that up, you hit them harder, you're a little quicker, a little stronger. They're not going to be able to do that. The biggest weakness, I don't want to say biggest weakness, but the biggest red flag of his weaknesses is his instincts are a little below average for a football player. You can coach a guy up, but they still got to have good instincts.
He also needs to improve his feel for the outside linebacker spot. He needs to learn how to finish tackles more consistently also. So, I mean, that right there would be a red flag to me and the Pittsburgh Steelers defense that prides itself in good linebackers.
He has the potential to be a great pass rusher in the 3-4 scheme, and that's what we're going to stick to with Keith Butler taking over for LeBeau.
If the Steelers don't draft him, I could actually see him falling out of the first round. And who knows, maybe he could drop as far as to the Steelers in the second round.
He'd be a great pick in the second round.
That's what
Huge
I'm saying.
value.
I remember the year Mike Tomlin first came in, I wanted them to draft Lamar Woodley in the first round so bad, and they ended up taking Timmons, and I was upset, and then they got Woodley in the second round, and I was pumped.
And then he washed out.
He did.
I feel like cover of Sports Illustrated with Woodley on the cover of it.
Well, let's jump back to the defensive backfield with a guy who I don't think the Steelers have a very good shot at, but I put him in there because I want to talk about him anyway, and there could be a possible trade-up scenario. It's Trey Waynes, the cornerback from Michigan State. Waynes is believed to be the best corner on the board, and most people think he'll be the first one coming off the board. He's 6 foot, 186 pounds. He played in 36 games over 3 seasons with the Spartans, starting 27 of them. He was selected as a first-team All-Big Ten in 2014 and was a semifinalist for the Thorpe Award, the top defensive back. He was a defensive recipient of MSU's Jim Adams Award, which is an unsung hero award. As a junior in 2014, Waynes had 3 interceptions, 8 pass breakups, and finished 6th on the team with 46 tackles. And in 2013, he started all 13 games at cornerback and earned MSU's Tommy Love Award for Most Improved Player on the Defense. Sounds like this guy's a good character guy.
Yeah, he's a little bit lighter than these other cornerbacks we mentioned, so he'd probably have to put on 5 to 10 pounds.
At least, yeah, 6 foot 186. You got to beef up a little bit.
I love the 40-yard dash, though, 4.31.
Yeah, that's what makes him so high. People love speed.
Please believe.
That's why some people are saying Kevin Johnson could be better. Some say Marcus Peters could be better. People get caught up in this 40-yard dash time, and automatically they're the number 1 cornerback.
Well, Waynes loves to compete in man-to-man coverage. He's mentally tough. He's the type of corner that can give up a big play and move on and make a big play on the next drive. He's been asked to play on an island, such like Darrelle Revis. He did so successfully, allowing just 2 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons he played in college. He's a bump and run specialist. You got to be able to jam receivers at the line these days. If not, they're going to run right past you. We already said he's the fastest corner at the NFL Scouting Combine with a 4.3 140. He maintains feel for vertical threats and uses his frame to pin wideouts against the sideline. That's good. But with the limited weight, these wideouts in the NFL are going to be able to push him around a little bit more physically. So I don't think he's going to be able to do that as well to NFL receivers as he did in college. But he excels in deep man coverage. He has great acceleration and length to contest any throw on the field, and he was well coached and plays with proper leverage in coverage. He does intimidate and disrupt some of these finesse receivers that he's gone up against. So that's nice to see.
Yeah,
he's a smaller guy, and he's intimidating other people.
Like you said, he's physical, and another corner here they're saying is a very good tackler, and that's pretty much what the Steelers love. I don't think he's going to be able to fall to him, though. I could see him going as high as number 10, too.
Yeah, he'll probably be the first defensive back, period, off the board, so I really, really don't expect him here. But I seen one mock with the Steelers taking him, and I got excited.
You had to mention him, man.
I had to.
Well, who knows? Corners fall. Corners fall in drafts all the time.
His biggest weakness is he likes to grab a little bit. That's why he was so good at the bump and run and press coverage in college. He got away with a little bit of holding, some of the players say. He was penalized 9 times over the last 2 years. He does struggle to match some of the stronger wide receivers that he went up against in college, but his speed was able to keep him in the game there. It's not going to work like that in the NFL. Calvin Johnson's fast and big.
As long as you got Shamarko behind him.
He'll be him and Mitchell. They'll be all right. Well, the last guy I want to talk about, Dash, you talked me into putting him in here. Malcom Brown, the defensive tackle from Texas. I don't think Brown's going to drop this low, but it would be great if he dropped this low. This would be a huge pick. This guy would replace Casey Hampton, just like you said a couple minutes ago. He's 6'2", 319 pounds. He was granted draft eligibility as an underclassman. In 2014, he was a finalist for the Bronco Nagurski Trophy, which is the most outstanding defensive player, and for the Outland Trophy, which is the top interior lineman. He was selected first-team All-American and first-team All-Big 12. He became the first defensive tackle to lead Texas in tackles for a loss and sacks since Tony DeGreat in 1984. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. I was only 2 years old. He started every game over the 2013 and 2014 season, so he's not a guy who's going to get injured a lot. He didn't start in 2012, but his playing time increased drastically over the second half of the season. So once he got onto the field, the coaches kind of fell in love with him, and it's pretty much just been rolling with it ever since.
319 pounds. He ran a 5.05 40.
Ridiculous.
He would crush me.
Yeah, I broke my collarbone getting hit by a guy who weighed 200 pounds. Imagine if this guy hit me.
Well, listen, the reason I wanted you to put this guy on the list, because if he falls to him, I really think they got to take him. I know they have big needs in other places, but this is a guy that can play from day one.
Period. He showed great improvement in the 2014 season. He's been a riser on a lot of draft boards. He has good bend in his hips to play low off the ball. He's a very athletic big man, like you pointed to, with his speed and his quickness. He began to impose his will more frequently the later in the season it got. He's realizing how big and physical he is and how he has the ability to kind of just throw people around. And when he finally gets that burnt into his mind, he's just going to start destroying people.
The one thing he does have to work on is his endurance, because he gets gassed late in games, and that's not a good thing.
He just needs Bobby Boucher to bring him some water. That'll help him keep him from getting gassed, right?
Bobby Boucher.
When he's on the bench, when the offense is on the field, you give him an oxygen tank.
Believe it. Another thing that he does have to work on, is similar to some of these other guys, is more pass rush moves. He wasn't a guy who rushed the passer a whole lot. He's more of a guy who takes his spot on the ground and takes on 2 blockers and pushes them around and just allows the other defenders on your defense to do the real work while he does the dirty work.
Yeah, he lacks first step quickness.
Yeah.
But that's not what we need him for. We
No.
just need him to take up a couple blockers.
Our nose tackle doesn't have to get that far upfield.
The problem with that is he has average power in his lower body, and he actually struggles to hold ground against double teams. So maybe it's the fact that he lacks that mean streak needed to be down there in the trenches consistently.
I think he'll get there.
But, I mean, if this guy can take up the double teams and free up those linebackers, by all means. Casey Hampton did it for well over a decade.
Yeah, Brown's a big body. He doesn't penetrate the line of scrimmage real well, but he holds the line of scrimmage great. He took huge steps forwards. He has physical traits combined with some natural instincts. He should become a great player. The scouts think he can play anywhere on the D-line in a 3-4 or a 4-3. So with that kind of versatility, he may not be around at pick 22. If him and Collins are there, who do you take?
Ooh, that's a tough one. They need both. If they have any faith in Shamarko, I'd probably go Malcom Brown.
I don't think they have any faith in Shamarko.
Well, then I go Landon Collins.
Me too. He's the guy I really hope they get. And that means they won't get him, so sorry, fans. They never get who I want. Well, thank you guys for coming in studio. I want to thank you fans for listening. You guys can follow us on Twitter at bet_the_spread. You can follow me on Twitter at betjimthewin. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to that YouTube channel. Anything you disagree or agree with, hit us up. Let us know. We'll are you back.